Good day, everyone. My name is Jacqueline A. Montelia. I'm the reporter of the Theory of Self. The self, or the personality, has been studied for more than 2,000 years from the brilliant mind of philosophers such as Socrates, Plato, Hippocrates, and etc. However, other branches of science have also recognized that we need to understand each oneself or one another. This branch of study deals with understanding the human behavior, mental process, and mental process also.
Before we proceed to the discussion, let's answer the question, what is self or personality? Personality is what makes us unique, and it refers to individuals' differences in characteristic patterns in thinking, feeling, behaving, and understanding.
The origin of the self in psychology can be traced back from the idea of American philosopher and psychologist William James in 1842 to 1910. His philosophical take on the nature of his self reflects a dual structure, the I and me. The I refers to the aspect of the self that actively perceives and thinks, that is aware of one experience, and that organizes and interprets this experience. In other words, the I, the I is the subject part of the self. On the other hand, the me is the objective part of the self, the one that is being perceived. The object is one thought.
According to William James, the I is actively perceive and think. The I is aware of our experience and can organize and interpret those of our experiences. Also, in other words, the I is the subject part of ourself, and the me is the objective part of ourself.
But one of the most prominent study or figure is Sigmund Freud. He was the first to study systematically the working of the unconscious mind associated with the modern psychology. Freud believed that the most of our mental life takes place outside of our conscious awareness and proposed three components of the personality: the ID, ego, and superego. The unconscious ID contains our most primitive drives or urge, and it's present from birth. It directs impulses for hunger, tears, and sex. Freud believed that the ID operates on what he called the pleasure principle, in which the ID seek immediate the gratification through social interaction with parents and others in child's environment. The ego and superego develop to help control the ID. The superego develops as a child interacts with others, learning the social rules for the right and wrong. The superego acts as our conscience. It's our moral compass that tells us how we should behave. It strives for perfection and judge of our behavior, leading to feeling of pride when we fall short of the ideal, feelings of guilt.
Now we're going to discuss the three components of the self, the ID, ego, and superego. As you look at the picture, the ID represents as a child, ego is represent as an adult, and the superego represent as a parent. As you observe sa child is very aggressive with he or she always always saying that I want that kind of things, I want that kind of food, I want that kind of toys, I need this, satisfy me, but without any thinking the consequences of that kind of certain thing that he or she wanted. And that kind of case, the superego help the ID to control his and her desire, and also uni ato ma-observe sa ato parents, our parent teach us on kung uno'y mas madayaw sa ato. And that's the superego act. And the ego is the one who balanced the demands of ID and superego. In the context of reality, as you observe sa ato self, bisan, yaya to gusto ng mga things na, ay, marag trends inisya ko man. But there's also the other side of ourselves that tells na, dili kay, dili wala kita kuman sa panahon, dili ko man normal, we are in pandemic situation. So, in that kind of cases, an ego, i-balance niya ang thinking na an ID and a super ego. In that case, masatisfy kita. And that's what we call the reality principle na mula ko na sa to self, ay oo kay kuan sabay ko man amo ini so dapat dili dakan. And so that's inana nakibali and rule and ego. And also ego help the ID to satisfy because observe an ID is very aggressive. Grabe gid siya ka asin lang pa kasamuk or ano ba. And that kibali an ID help the ego help the ID to satisfy in realistic way. That's the ego. And now we're going to discuss what we can get if we have a strong ego. According to Freud, a person who has a strong ego which can balance the demands of ID and the superego has a healthy personality. Also, Freud maintained that imbalances in the system can lead to neurosis, a tendency to experience negative emotion, anxiety disorders, or unhealthy behaviors. For example, a person with a dominant superego might be controlled by feelings of guilt and deny themselves even socially acceptable pleasure. Conversely, if the superego is weak or absent, a person might become a psychopath. An overly dominant superego might be seen in over-control individual whose rational grasp on reality is so strong that they are unaware of their emotional needs, or in a neurotic who is overly defensive, overusing an ego defense mechanism. And that's all about for the theory of self. Thank you for watching.